Welcome to the Cooperation in Education podcast series. In this limited series, we will dive into the future of higher education and explore how cooperations can transform learning experiences. This podcast series is part of the Cooperation in Education Knowledge Gateway project, in short, the CIE Gateway project. CIE Gateway is an international project that aims to support educators in better preparing their students for the dynamic and challenging world of work. We do that by 1. Encouraging multidisciplinary and external collaborations, 2. Fostering engagement with industry and society for educational practice, and 3. Equipping academic staff with tools and resources to enhance education delivery. The CIE Gateway project unites partners from 4 countries across Europe: IMTBS from France, FH Münster from Germany, UIN for the Netherlands, and Young from Finland. The CIE Gateway project is funded by the European Union. Views and opinions expressed are, however, those of the authors only and do not necessarily reflect those of the European Union or the Finnish National Agency for Education. Neither the European Union nor the granting authority can be held responsible for them. Welcome back, everyone, to the last episode of our Cooperation in Education podcast series. Today, we will go back a bit to our second episode with Dr. Roy Priest, an admirer educator at the Birmingham City University, BCU, in the College of Computing. If you haven't heard it yet, don't forget to check it out. The name of the episode is Empowering Educators, Small Steps to Support Educators in Their Cooperation Journeys. Back when we talked with Roy, it had so many great insights that we talked for over an hour. We left some of these insights out of episode 2 for editing reasons, but we would be such a shame to not share them with you. So today's episode 10, and the last of this podcast series, will be about success stories, collaborative projects at BCU. With Roy sharing a couple of the initiatives he has implemented in the UK and which we believe are great to inspire you, educators, and our listeners. So, at the beginning of episode 2, Roy was explaining his role as college academic lead for Employability and Mobility. When covering the mobility part, what does it mean, what does it entail, he mentioned that when the UK was part of the EU, they used the Erasmus schemes to implement mobility programs and activities for their students. But since leaving the EU, the government has created the Turing scheme, which aims to do the same and is pretty similar. So they want to support and give the students opportunities to go abroad. Here is the example he shared about this.
So just as an example of that, I've just come back from a trip to China. We've got 2 partners in Wuhan, and I visited both of them. We've had partnerships there for a number of years. And we're looking to enhance, obviously the pandemic had a big impact in terms of student mobility, and we haven't quite got back to where we were. So the intention is to go to some of our strongest partnerships, such as our BIFCA and WUST partnerships in Wuhan, and to see what we can do to turn those partnerships into potential mobility opportunities for our students. So one of the things we're looking at is I took 5 students to BIFCA with me a couple of weeks ago, and BIFCA is a partnership with Wuhan Textile University, and we went for a week and we joined them for their Innovation Fest, which is their end of year show. And the idea is next year is to take maybe 20 students for a month and for them to work with students from that university. Not just the students who travel to China, but the idea is to cascade this to the wider student cohort so they can work with students from this university in China remotely, and then to work together on projects, and then for a group of these students to actually travel to China and to actually fabricate their projects over that few weeks, and then to display the actual physical pieces in Innovation Fest BIFCA. So I think it's really exciting. The will is there, the interest is there. We've addressed some of the operational aspects that need to be addressed, and hopefully we can really open it out next year to have more experiences for our students to travel abroad.
That sounds awesome. That's so crazy. That's like, you think it's the other side of the world, but at the same time still so close. How the connections, knowing people is so important, the networking, and you can do great things if you want to. It's also the thing, right? You need to want to. You want to do that. You want to provide that to all your students. And I see the other partner as well. So it is a thing that it's about working together.
Just to build on the trip to China for a moment. So the values of the university are to create opportunity, to think differently, and to build community. So I think the trip to China really exemplified all of that. So while we were there, we met with employers, and I've been doing this for a number of years in the UK, and perceiving all I've ever perceived is goodwill from employers. They really want to help. And I saw the same thing in Wuhan. So there was one company in particular that were, well, two actually, but there's one in particular that's based in Wuhan that were very keen to have an input to student projects, to help them to shape their projects, to give them some formative feedback, perhaps to influence summative feedback as well, to have site visits. It was fantastic. So there's that same kind of input and desire to want to support students is there. Obviously, they're looking to recruit and they're looking to have input to their company, and that's great. But as part of that, we've talked about the idea of talking to other student groups back in the UK, talking virtually, and having some feedback on some other student projects they're working on back in the UK. So obviously there, it gives our students the experience of working through language barriers and working through, translation apps and translators. And that's really exciting again, because this is what they will no doubt experience in the working world. So that's another project we're looking to develop.
Later on, we asked Roy to share more examples of successful cooperations that he has integrated into the BCU framework. He had so many to share, and a lot of them you can find in episode 2, so check it out. But here are some other examples that he has seen from his colleagues.
So I had a colleague who was involved with a company. They're a large audio product manufacturer, and a number of our graduates have worked for this company. And we've worked with them for years, and they come and they share. They do some training on the equipment that they use, and then one year they said, "Do you want some equipment?" And they gave us £60,000 worth of equipment because they liked working with us. The equipment was there, and they were happy to share it. Another one was that a company again that we've worked with for a long while. They've taken on a number of our placement students for a whole year, and a number of our graduates have worked there for many years. They said, how would your students like to beta test some of our new products? Fantastic. So for our students, they're the kind of people that would buy these products anyway. They understand them. From the company point of view, these are ideal candidates to test these products, to try and break them perhaps, and to give some feedback. So one of these that my colleagues have developed, they're called special interest groups. And the idea is that we actually have real world problems that need solving. So the first one that we had was a community centre where there was issues with the acoustics, and our students, the kind of place that couldn't afford a professional acoustician to provide a survey and to give a report. So that was perfect for our students, and they provided some solutions as to how the acoustics could be improved. They've done a similar thing over the last 12 months with a local football club in Birmingham that has a conference suite that had some acoustic issues, and again our students did some surveys, gave some potential solutions. So it's real world work that they're doing, which is ideal for CVs and ideal for when they're in that interview for their first graduate post.
Still talking about successful cooperations, Roy also mentioned the importance of alumni, especially when you want to start with collaborations. He said it's usually the easiest and fastest way to do so. And he shared a really great example and story of him with a former student. And with this example, we can see how impactful and beneficial bringing in alumni to talk with the students can be.
I think also alumni is critically important. So again, you may get a colleague who says, I don't know anybody in this particular sector. We do, because we've got so many graduates that have gone to work in these areas. LinkedIn is easy. You know, we encourage our students to join LinkedIn. It's an easy way of reaching out to them saying, hey, you know, it's great to see you doing so well in your current role. Would you like to come back and talk to the students? And they always say yes. I've never had a student, a graduate rather, who said, no, Roy, thank you very much, I'm too busy. They're usually very keen to say, I'm very happy to have got a job that I enjoy and I would like to share. So just one example of that. We had a student and she was studying music, BSc music technology course a number of years ago. And her ambition was to work in film and TV, which is a very tricky area to work in, to break into. And she did it. She worked on a TV soap opera that was shot locally, and that was her way in. And she was a boom operator, which is holding the microphone to capture the audio. And she built it from there. And she worked on some very prestigious TV shows, Sherlock and Black Mirror, and she's worked on films, Indiana Jones and Batman and all sorts of stuff. And she said to me, it's a very male-dominated world, and she managed to succeed as a female working in that world, and she was very, very proud of what she achieved. So we stayed in touch, and I said to her this year, would you like to come and talk to the students? And she said, yep. And that was fantastic. And there was a female student in the group actually, and she caught me afterwards and she said, I want to do what she does. So she said she had ambitions to be a live sound engineer working in venues, but she was totally taken with the idea of working in broadcast sound, in working for film and TV. And she had a network there because the graduate who came in was quite happy to share her contact details, her LinkedIn at least, and they could talk. And they could say, here, you know, I can share my experience and ways into the profession, which can seem very daunting. That's just one example. There's been lots of examples over the years.
Roy also mentioned two other specific initiatives BCU has in terms of cooperation in education, which are already implemented for many years and have been really, really successful. So, Roy, you just mentioned a lot of types of collaboration that you do, like with China and also the guest lectures and everything. But I know there are other innovative practices in BCU, for example, such as the STEAM House. Could you tell me us a bit more about this project, what type of collaboration it is, how it has evolved, how it is between industry and the partners and the BCU, how does it work?
Sure. So STEAM House is a really exciting project for us. It started, phase one opened in 2018. It was funded by ERDF and Arts Council England. And the intention was that it would, the STEAM House version 1 would support artists and creative SMEs, and it would give them free mentoring workshops, access to equipment that they might not normally be able to afford, short courses, workspaces, workshops, etc., and to help them with their growing businesses. So that was seen to be a success. And an opportunity came up. So where I'm based in the city centre is an area that has been redeveloped over the last 20, 25 years. And there was an old building on that ground that we took ownership of, that was an old factory, and it was a listed building, which meant that the idea was to save it in its as much as possible. It was actually burnt out, so it was quite a mission to actually turn it around into a viable building again. But this became the second iteration of Steam House. In other words, the first one was a pre-existing building. The second one was purpose-built. So it was very exciting because it allowed different elements to come together in the same space. So what you've got in Steam House now, on the ground floor, you have these workshops, and SMEs can join programs to get access to some fantastic equipment. There's also opportunities to work with our researchers. So we have academic researchers that are working in cutting edge areas, and they can work with potential to work with developing new products and working with startups. There's the hatchery, so there's incubator spaces to support new companies. There's also the potential to have actual companies on site in the building, and we're working on that at the moment. There's partnerships we're developing. So a very exciting one is a partnership with Arup. So Arup are an international company who are a construction company. As part of what they do, they have acoustics, and they've worked in partnership with us to have a sound lab on site in Steam House, which can be used by their clients and by our students and by our researchers. So it's just one example of that wouldn't have happened without Steam House. That was the potential of, we're working on it behind the scenes for a good while, but the real potential to do it properly came through this new building. So it's very exciting for us. I was involved with a core team of colleagues in the internal design of the space. And what we were trying to do was to sort of, through the design of these spaces, to have some social engineering, to create areas where people would interact and would meet each other and potentially collaborate. So, for example, it could be an SME needs some work doing, maybe some website design, and they can maybe turn to a student to do a piece of work for them, and they might pay the student a fee to do that, and the student has that on their CV, and it's a real world experience. That's the kind of thing we're trying to do. We're also, it's home to our Innovation Fest that I mentioned earlier. So that's where we actually bring industry on site to look at our student work and to meet our academic teams. And that's worked really, really well. This year we had more guests than ever. I think we doubled the number of industry guests that came on site. And yeah, so it all creates this kind of dynamic atmosphere of collaboration.
That's so interesting that just to have this building, it opens so many doors for you of types of collaboration that you could provide, right? For the partners to come and work there, and for the students to work with the partners, which is great. I understand it is an extra, but it is so valuable, as you said. It's real life experience, and you are there in contact. Of course, just depend on the student of being willing to be there, because as you have been mentioning, the industry is willing to be part of it and
absolutely,
and engage, right? And then one of the other initiatives that I read about is about the industrial mentors. So what is about this initiative? How does it foster communication between students, academics, the industry, and how to also to be a tool for knowledge creation, for example, skill development and everything?
So industrial mentors came about through my involvement in our two audio courses. So that's BSc Music Technology and BSc Sound Engineering and Production. And I'd run those courses for a number of years and been closely involved. And we had a fantastic network that we just knew through alumni and through companies that wanted to work with us. And it occurred to me that we could do more with that network. So we have a VLE, a virtual learning environment. We use Moodle. And the first hurdle was I wanted to create a forum where the students could talk to industry partners directly anytime they want throughout the whole course. So we created a profile through Moodle to facilitate that. And it's been running for a number of years. And the way it is now is that there's 40 mentors from a whole range of companies, big and small. I think it's important that we get different types of companies. And the students across the 3 years, and if they go on placement 4 years, can tap into this forum whenever they want, ask any question that they want. It could be a technical question, or it could be how to develop a CV, or placement opportunities, or final year projects, anything they want, they can ask questions. And it works really well. And one of the reasons I like it, and I've pursued it, I'm aware of traditional mentorship programs, and they tend to be one mentor to maybe 3 students, quite small. And the benefit of those discussions doesn't necessarily get cascaded to the wider student cohort. Whereas with the forums, all of the questions that have ever been asked are still there. And if you're a shy student who lacks the confidence to actually post, that's okay. You can still get the benefit of other people's questions and the answers that were given. Also, the mentors on the forum, they've all got LinkedIn profiles. So the students can reach out to them and start to build their professional networks that way. Because I mentioned at the start that a lot of our students may lack social capital. They might not know anybody in that profession. And this is our way of giving them a ready-made professional network. And that works really well. Over the years, it's evolved, and I was encouraged to factor it into module assessment, which at first I wasn't sure I wanted to do, because it kind of went slightly against the informality that I was trying to nurture. But I tried it, and it worked really well. And it worked because I had students that came back to me saying, Roy, I could see the value of these forums, but I didn't actually post. But when you kind of gave it a bit of a mark, it encouraged me to post, and now I'm up and running, and I'm involved. So I came round to the idea, basically. And the assessment that I use, it's in the second year, and the students have to research a particular area of industry they're looking to work in, and they're encouraged to reach out to industry professionals as part of their research and to get that direct feedback. So it all helps them just to gain that insight, that real world experience. And it's been, the model has been shared more widely. I've had interest internationally and nationally. And within the university, we've looked to cascade it on other courses as well.
That sounds really great. It is really one way, right? You saw how it was going. It was still reluctant, but in the end, you saw the value of it, right? And again, it's about being open, right? You were open at the moment to, okay, it seems it's gonna work. Why not try? Which it is in the end everything you wish for. You try and you succeed, and which is great.
With that, we come to the end of today's episode about success stories, collaborative projects at PCU. We would like to thank Roy once again for all these great insights. And we hope these stories inspire even more you, listener, to pursue the collaboration path in education. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. This was the last episode of this limited series. We hope you enjoyed all the insightful conversations we had for the past few months. Thank you so much for supporting us. But exploring collaboration and their role in the future of higher education does not stop. Our Cooperation in Education Playbook and Toolkit can help you, educator, with implementing collaborative, multidisciplinary, internally and externally engaged practices. The playbook and the toolkit provide practical strategies, methodologies, and ready-to-use tools to enhance education through cooperation with industry, society, and academia. Check out the show notes for a link to these materials. Our Knowledge Gateway is also there to support you in pursuing the collaboration path, with all the resources we created in the CAE Gateway project accessible in an interactive way. Explore our platform and resources now and follow us on LinkedIn for more exchanges. Cooperation in Education podcast series, where collaboration meets inspiration.